We have with us the man on the very, very hot seat, the oil, petroleum, natural gas, and the urban development minister, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri. Thank you very much for gracing the 8th India Economic Conclave. And my question to you, Mr. Minister, is how do you look at the global situation today? Are we looking at an energy crisis, a supply crisis, and how is India placed in a situation in terms of facing its demand domestically, because almost 80+% comes through imports?
I don't know whether that is your favorite opening line. This is the most awaited session. But I'll accept it.
My favorite line is that
it's
the hottest seat at the moment.
I would be inclined to agree with that. But the intensity of the heat also needs to be analyzed. First of all, let me thank you and through you, your esteemed channel, for inviting me here today. I'm very happy that you have decided to commence this discussion, and I hope it's a discussion and not a grilling, by asking me about the global situation. Navika ji, my concern is that most of us, including my own colleagues sometimes, fail to comprehend the gravity of what we are going through. And I don't mean just the fact that the world's leading economy, which is a $20 trillion economy, it has the highest inflation rate it has experienced in 46 years. The fact that another very advanced economy, with one which we have had a 190-year relationship, has witnessed or is witnessing the steepest decline in living standards since the Second World War. Around us, we have countries like Sri Lanka, Nepal, Pakistan. They are facing crises which really need to be understood. And these are real crises. But the crisis is not just because of the military action in Ukraine. I would submit to you, madam, that we had not fully emerged from the ravages of the pandemic. Many of us are familiar with, I'm personally familiar, I was posted in New York and Geneva when SARS, H1N1, swine flu, Ebola hit the global economy. But this was a disruption of a fundamentally different kind. We had not recovered from that when we came into this. How serious is the oil situation? I can tell you two things. Total number of oil available in the world and the total demand is not going to change very much. But the prices are high for a simple reason, that those who can impact the prices, and you know whom I'm referring to, they have chosen for some reason to retain supplies at a slightly lower level than the demand, which means prices are high. Now, if you've seen the pendulum swing from $19.56 a barrel in April of 2020 to it had gone up to $132 a barrel, it's a very serious thing. How is India managing? And that is your question. Again, with due humility and I would say some far-sightedness, the Prime Minister has ensured, that there is enough oil available, oil and gas. That's the first point, which is in marked contrast to countries where it's not available. Now, I don't want to startle your colleagues, your audience, but you know how many people go to the petrol pump every day? 6 crore. 60 million people go to Indian retail outlets to tank up every day. Our daily consumption is 5 million barrels, daily consumption. I can give you the refining consumption, all that. We will survive this. What we need to do is just to make sure that the hard-headed decisions which the center needs to take and the states need to take are in consonance. Because I'll tell you something,
hard decisions You mean price rise?
No.
Increases in prices beyond the 110 rupees a litre.
You know,
And you were saying that the United States of America has a 46-year high, so we are competing with them?
no. I have always wished that you and I could exchange jobs because yours is so much easier. I have always maintained that prices, madam, were deregulated when the Congress government took a decision on petrol in 2010 and diesel in 2014. We took the decision. Deregulation means that the price at the bunk will be determined by the cost, by the price prevailing in the international market, the cost of freight, insurance, and the exchange rate. Now, the issue is, on top of that, the center collects an excise and the states collect some VAT. Now, the political narrative, which you have the liberty of referring to when you want to grill me, is one in which people...
Grilled is always better than gravies.
Well, that's all right.
More healthy.
Issue is, those people are philosophizing with a false conscience. Let me explain to you. We used to charge 32 rupees a litre on petrol and diesel during this period. Then came the pandemic. We needed the money because of the peculiar situation that was on. 80 crore people, Navika ji, are being fed 3 meals in a day. And that's continuing for another 3 months. 80 crore people. People, I think 1.82 crore free vaccine doses. And I can give you a list. We did that. Our BJP states reduced their VAT, corresponding with the centers, and the prices came down. But the criticism is coming from those non-BJP states, and I don't want to name any because I don't want to abuse host privilege here. I mean, you charge something like 35% VAT and a little more. I have one. I'll only give you one statistic, and I won't tell you whom it belongs to.
Home state when...
No, I didn't say...
When you say home state,
I didn't say
you're in Mumbai.
Your home state could be Bihar, mine
No, but
could
you
be
said
Punjab.
home state privilege where you're visiting, so you're talking about Maharashtra.
I didn't say it. One state charges 26% VAT plus rupees 10.12 litre additional tax. Now, if you are charging 26 or 30, another one is charging 31%, another one is charging 32%, somebody is charging even higher, which means if the international price is $50 a barrel, which it was ages ago, you were still charging 32%. If it is now $100 a barrel, you're still charging 32%. So they're making a killing. I can understand. You need that revenue for your... But explain to me, how can you at the same time bring down the duty on imported liquor from 300% to 150? No, I can understand. I mean, I come from a state where, people take kindly to reduction in duty rates on liquor.
I know.
Even though they may not want their representatives to give the appearance that they've been, at it. But I want to seriously understand, can you criticize the center on pricing if your own VAT rates are exorbitant? That's a limited point I want to make on prices, and I think we would leave it at that because there's a discussion I wanted to have in Parliament. I got up in Parliament. I was speaking on the Ukraine, Operation Ganga. But you give a guy who's switched to politics the mic, he'll never miss an opportunity to vision. International prices have gone up 58% on the bunk. Ours have gone up only 15%. Now, unless you're saying, and you said that, do you want to compete with the United States on inflation? No, for heaven's sake, I don't. I want mine to remain where it is and come down.
How is that going to happen?
It will happen because the center will
Unless there is an election around the corner.
No. No, the nice thing I like about elections is that we are a country, we can have an election around every corner. I mean, on November 4th, just after Diwali, I think the Honorable Prime Minister decided to reduce excise on petrol and diesel by 5 rupees and 10 rupees. All right? Everybody said कि ये election हो रहे हैं, उसलिए हो रहा है. अरे भाई, election के बाद में कौन से उन्होंने बढ़ा दिए हैं? They are taking a hit.
हाँ, इलेक्शन के जमाने में तो आप बिल्कुल नहीं बढ़ाते.
नहीं,
तब आपकी डीरेगुलेशन होती नहीं है कहीं पर.
अच्छा.
ना कांग्रेस के जमाने की डीरेगुलेशन चलती है, ना बीजेपी के जमाने की. 4 महीने कोई प्राइस राइज नहीं, कोई बैरल क्रूड ऑयल की प्राइस ऊपर नहीं जाती. जैसे इलेक्शन खत्म होते हैं, we have to feed so many people, we need money.
Madam,
and
that's why I want to exchange jobs. That's why I want to exchange jobs with you.
I can exchange chairs.
Anytime. You see, it's very simple. Election के बाद भी बेचारों ने वो 80 पैसे 100 60 पैसे करके टोटल 10 रुपया बढ़ाया. मैं आपको एब्सोल्यूट फिगर्स दे रहा हूं. अगर आप पिछले एक साल की कंपैरिजन कैसे होती है, 1 अप्रैल से लेके 31 मार्च तक, वो कंपेयर कर लीजिए कहीं भी. यूएस, यूके, स्पेन 58% इंक्रीज हमारी, डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट कंपैरिजन यू आर डूइंग एंड व्हाट एक्सचेंज रेट यू आर टेकिंग, 14-15% से ऊपर नहीं जाती. सो माय सबमिशन टू यू इज even there it's responsible governance, hard decision making. I want you, through the powerful messaging you can do on your channel, tell the state governments थोड़ी इंस्पिरेशन ले सेंटर से, अपना वैट कम करें.
चलिए, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स तो अगर आपकी सुन लेंगे, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स एंड ऑपोजिशन पार्टीज आर आल्सो रेजिंग अ क्वेश्चन दैट एवरी टाइम question is raised on the fuel prices, you come back with an explanation saying that we have to feed people, we have to vaccinate people, we have to give them, Garib Kalyan Yojana, Kisan Samman Nidhi, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Their argument is, under the constitution, you are the sworn-in government, you are the elected government. ये तो आपका काम है. मार क्यों रहे हो लोगों को महंगाई से?
ऐसा है मैडम कि प्राइस हम नहीं डिटरमिन करती हैं, प्राइस ओएमसीज करती हैं. पहली बात तो हम क्या करते हैं, हम अपनी तरफ से जो एक्शन होता है, अगर प्राइस बढ़ रही है तो अपना एक्साइज हम कम कर देते हैं. अगर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट अपना वैट कर दें तो ये ऑपोजिशन वाले जिस स्टेट से आते हैं उन्हीं की स्टेट का पूछ लीजिए. अब वो एक पूर्व वित्त मंत्री हैं, उनकी स्टेट का मैं बता देता हूँ, तमिलनाडु का कितना वो है. मैं आपको बाकी जो कांग्रेस स्टेट्स हैं सबके मैं आंकड़े बता देती हूँ. ऑपोजिशन की बात जितनी आप सीरियसली लेंगे, विच मीन्स एनालाइज करेंगी, एंड यू विल डिस्कवर दे आर फिलोसोफाइजिंग विद अ फॉल्स कॉन्शियंस, तभी तो खत्म हो गई ऑपोजिशन. 2014-19 के मिला के कांग्रेस पार्टी के 100 सीट नहीं बनती हैं. अभी जो उत्तर प्रदेश में उन्होंने चुनाव लड़े हैं उसमें 97% कैंडिडेट्स की जमानत जब्त हो गई है. तो अभी ऑपोजिशन फॉर द सेक ऑफ ऑपोजिशन इज गुड. एक मैसेज, आई जस्ट वांट टू गिव वन मैसेज. प्लीज टेल द कांग्रेस रूल्ड स्टेट्स और द ऑपोजिशन रूल्ड स्टेट्स, and there may be a 1 or 2 elsewhere also, to reduce their VAT at least if you are charging 35%, I am not saying bring it to 5%, कम से कम आधा तो कर दो. At least that will have an impact. And the price is not determined by the government. Price is determined by the OMCs. Now, if you and I have this conversation and say 6 दिन में या 10 दिन में वहाँ पे जो military action है that draws to a close and there's a cessation of hostilities, international price comes down, that's one way. But at the end of the day, you plan for a consuming public. India is it is the fastest growing economy in its class. And I think the good news is that when you see fault lines and threats to economic stability in the countries around us, I've named some countries in here. I was talking to the Brazilian minister, there are countries in Latin America who are under severe stress. India is not in that position. India, with stable, rational, and decisive policies at the central level by the Prime Minister and clear-headed approach. We brought the excise down. We expect the state governments, especially those that didn't do it, to bring the excise down. And we will then take the consequences. And we monitor it on a daily basis.
Mr. Hardeep Puri, I want to ask you the global situation on oil and world geopolitics associated with it. Where do you see the direction of this going? Russia has oil to offer, but there is US pressure not to buy oil from Russia. Where is India going to stand on this? And how does this impact overall global availability situation on oil, natural gas, and other fuel products?
So I think it's a fundamentally important and I would say a brilliant question, because on that hinges the whole scene. First and foremost, let me clear the cobwebs on all this contrived narrative, all this business about, they don't want you to buy this, they don't want you to do that. First of all, what are the hard facts? My colleague and friend, the External Affairs Minister, was going to the United States recently for the 2+2 talks with Rajnath Singh ji and their counterparts. And through a WhatsApp exchange and external, he asked me, what is our overall scenario? And I told him, the Europeans buy more oil in one afternoon than India buys in a quarter. It may have been a signal problem, I don't know, but when he came out in the press conference, he said, the Europeans buy more oil in one afternoon than India buys in a month. No, actually, I said in a quarter. After he had used the figures, I have a young researcher sitting, I said, make sure the number. I'm 100% sure. Navika ji, we ended the previous financial year, which is on 31st March 2022. Our total purchase of oil from Russia was 0.2%, number one. So what is it? This narrative is going on and on. First of all, I ask you a simple question. Are the oil entities in Russia under sanction? I'm asking you the question. Number one. Number two, all right, no, it was that 0.2%, but you bought. I checked with my people. First of all, we have private sector players. Even our OMCs don't come to me for direction. Oil marketing companies, some of them are Fortune 500 companies. They take their independent decision. But I checked. At that particular point of time, somebody told me that somebody had bought, I think, 15 million barrels for delivery over the next 3 or 4 months. Madam, मैंने आपको submit किया, our daily consumption is 5 million barrels. अगर 3 दिन की supply खरीद भी ली, does that show up in the statistics? Number one. Russia has the oil, it exports most of it, to the People's Republic of China and Europe. Most of the gas which comes to Europe comes through pipelines from Russia. We have what is called the geographical factor. It's much more economical for you to be buying oil, hypothetically, from the Gulf states or Iran. Iran has 35 million barrels available on a platform. Once Iran is no longer under, sanctions by by one particular country, Iranian oil becomes available. It is not a question of shortage of oil. I keep coming back to that. In fact, if the OPEC plus countries honor their quotas, what they are supposed to do, many countries in Africa belonging to OPEC plus are not producing the desired quantity. So I'll say it's not a question of shortage of oil, but whatever it is, we will diversify, we will get we will not allow, and by the way, we are one of the few countries which is extremely fortunate. We have a refining capacity of about 250 million metric tons per annum today. It's a lot of refining capacity. We sell to other people. We are going to take that up from 250 to 400 million metric tons per annum. Our biofuel blending, Navika ji, last year, first of all, let me give you the history. When I was ambassador to Brazil, we were fondly hoping that we could get 5% ethanol blending in 10 or 15 of our states and union territories. We ended, when the previous government handed over power, our total blending was what, 1.3%? Maximum 1.4, less. Today, last month, we reached 10% blending. 10% blending means a foreign exchange saving of 30,000 crores. So we are pushing ahead. Exploration and production. Well, somebody, when I became a minister a few months ago, somebody asked me, "Bhai, ENP क्यों नहीं चढ़ा?" मैंने कहा, neglect हुआ. Then I said, hey, wait a minute. Neglect नहीं, a criminal neglect था. I had the feeling the system was gamed just to allow imports to take place. And you're right, our crude oil imports are not 80%, they're 85% plus. That is because the economy is growing. And our ENP has been slow, but if I have this conversation with you in a few months' time, if you do enough, it would have shot up from 7, 8% to 10% and 15%, because we are really going at it with revolutionary zeal. We are changing the policy, bringing in revenue sharing, making sure there are no impediments left. And if I can help it, I would like to have a well in every backyard, because the oil is there. The natural resources are there. We just got caught in our own procedures because of, as I said, several years of neglect. At 2000, by the time the Modi government came in 2014, May, nothing had been done in 2007. That's when we started stepping up. And oil and gas typically have a gestation period, Navika ji, which can be 5 to 10 years. Now we are rectifying it. By the way, our gas production, I think, is going up 18% now. So things are happening. We just have to navigate through the current international crisis.
So you're saying that 10 years from 2014 is 2024. उसके बाद आपको 2-3 टर्म चाहिए क्योंकि ऑयल कैपेसिटी बढ़ानी है देश में. इतने तो चाहिए ही होंगे और उससे पहले तो कोई काम हुआ ही नहीं.
अगर आप सिग्नल कर रही हैं that you want to move from oil to politics, I'm quite happy. But I would say that anyone who's cynical about us, 2024 मत लीजिए, कम से कम 229 पे करिए. 224 तो हम, अगर these 4 results that you got, मेरे हिसाब से तो 5-0 था ये पिछला रिजल्ट. और ये जो अभी
5-0 कैसे? पंजाब
में is the best result because जिन्होंने वहां पे lack of governance दिखाई, हम तो थे ही नहीं. We were junior partners in an alliance. वो गठबंधन टूटने से हमें तो बड़ा फायदा हुआ है. वो कांग्रेस बाकी सो आए, एक झटके में बाहर गए. और ये जो सक्सेस स्टोरी है पॉलिटिकल स्टार्टअप की दिल्ली में, जीएसटी सरप्लस स्टेट को जो उन्होंने किया, उस स्टेट में तो 2,81,000 करोड़ का खर्चा है. मैं तो कह रहा हूं पंजाब का बहुत अच्छा रिजल्ट था. अभी पता लगेगा कैसे चलाना है. और पिछले जो 4-0 हमारी विक्ट्री हुई है उसमें ये, जहां पे डबल इंजन की सरकार होती है उत्तर प्रदेश जैसी, वहां पे यू सी गुड गवर्नेंस इज डिफाइंड एज गुड पॉलिटिक्स. आप मेट्रो बनाएंगे, आप लोगों को प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना देंगे, आप उज्ज्वला के सिलेंडर देंगे तो पॉलिटिक्स भी अच्छी होगी. अगर फ्री भी वो क्या कहते हैं रेवड़ियां बांटेंगे जैसे ये बांट रहे हैं, उनको पता लगेगा. 4 साल की जरूरत ही नहीं है, जल्दी पता लग जाएगा.
वो रेवड़ियां बांट रहे हैं, आप बुलडोजर बांट रहे हो. यू आर ऑल्सो द अर्बन डेवलपमेंट मिनिस्टर. अब is there serious thinking within your party के कमल का चिन्ह बदल के बुलडोजर का चिन्ह लगा दिया जाए?
देखिए जिनका माइंडसेट इन चीजों पे होता है वो सोचते हैं चीजें. हमारा तो है नहीं. कमल का फूल is the quintessential, it embodies the quintessential value system of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And that is why a party which at one stage had 2 members in parliament in the Lok Sabha, today has 300 plus. We've crossed the 100 mark in the Rajya Sabha. Look, our sheet anchor is governance. Now, if you want to take me into what happened in Delhi in a few days, I'm as a housing and urban affairs minister, I'm not. It's an MCD issue which comes elsewhere. But let me tell you, a action does not cease to be, especially this is before the apex court. I mean, if there is illegal construction, let them follow it. Whether process is followed or not, the samne bahar aa jayegi. But you know, I have been dealing with, issues of illegal encroachments. Encroachments are per se illegal. People occupying residences when they're no longer entitled. This is part of our governance story. But seriously, the Kamal khilega. Or be?
No, the reason I'm asking you this question in all seriousness is bulldozer began in Uttar Pradesh with illegal constructions. Then there was attacks on Hindu processions on Ram Navami in Madhya Pradesh. Out came the bulldozers. Then we saw the bulldozers coming out in Gujarat as well. And then they came out right after, the violence in Jahangir Puri in Delhi. Now, you may say that I'm the urban affairs minister, mere under nahi aata hai, but sari irregular colonies चुनाव से पहले किसने रेगुलराइज की थी? श्री हरदीप सिंह पुरी
नहीं
ने।
नहीं, 1 minute.
आपने की थी?
देखिए, we are mixing up encroachments on a road which is blocking traffic. And
Why was it not visible to you before the violence? Why did it become visible to you only after the violence is a question the country is asking.
The country, you're sounding like a predecessor of where the country wants to know. I'm very happy with that.
It is a Times Now brand name.
So, hamara acha, the country wants to know. Now, I want to tell the country, through you, that one of the most pressing, urgent imperatives which had been hanging fire since 2006 was the giving Malkana Haq to people living in unauthorized colonies. Please, the difference between authorized colonies and unauthorized colonies, and there's a difference between an encroachment in the middle of the road and something. So let me explain what we did. Since the Congress government at the time of 2006 had said कि वो करने वाले हैं, we accepted it. I became Urban Affairs Minister in 2017 September. मैंने दिल्ली की सरकार को पूछा, उनके मुख्यमंत्री को बोला, हम कर रहे हैं सर, कर रहे हैं. 2019 में they said कि अभी हमने एजेंसी अपॉइंट करनी है जिसको 2 साल लगेंगे डेटा बनाने में. That's when I went to my boss, the Honorable Prime Minister. मैंने कहा ये तो 2021, ये तो 2030 तक नहीं करने वाले. That's when we brought a bill in Parliament, and for which is called Prime Minister's unauthorized Uday scheme. So out of, I think, a total of 1769, I came here prepared with statistics on petrol. Now you're taking me to my other world.
Surprise elements always there in every interview.
I know, this is a trick question. So what we have done is, we were hoping that we would be able to complete the process. I think about 40 lakh people will benefit from that. I don't have the statistics. I think about 4 lakh people have already registered. A lot of people have been given the conveyance deed. We are proceeding. Now you also, after you've given Malkana Haq, which is what it, which means you built a house. How did it happen? You know, there has been autonomous urbanization in India. People have moved from place X to place Y. Informal settlements have come up, which means slums. So we are cleaning that process up. This process, now we are also bringing out the development norms. Once the development norms are there and you've got the Malkana Haq, you can go to a bank and ask for a loan. And you can then reconstruct, and land values will then go up, etc. So that's one of the things I am particularly proud of as Housing Minister.
You diverted the entire discussion away from Jahangir Puri and brought it to something like...
As I said, I don't think Jahangir Puri, the dynamics there, people who are hiding behind those illegal structures and pelting stones. I mean, there are some romantic names also I heard. You know, I don't want to come into them, pelting stones and shooting people, etc. That's not what we are discussing. That's a criminal act, and I think it should be dealt with under the law of the land. And I don't think you should allow people to engage and take on the apparatus of the state. I mean, a policeman is supposed to enforce. I saw visual clips of that, including on your channel. It's not blood boiling. I mean, it's just frightening. If in the heart of the city, people can take on the state like that, now they will make political capital out of it. You know, those guys in that newly startup which has started in my state there, they will send policemen because you make a statement. We'll get over all this. Let this court action go, and then I'll do a separate one-on-one interview with you. I have some hard responses to give to you on that one.
So why are you not giving the hard responses?
Madam, वो कोर्ट के सामने वो जो है वो you know due process है, किसको notice मिला, क्या करो, उनको करने दो. उन्हें तो वो कहेंगे जो मंत्री भी बैठ के नविका जी के साथ ये already वो ले रहा था. This is not correct in terms of.
The only reason I'm asking is the state cannot be seen or perceived as vengeful. I just want to ask you, was it an action of revenge by the state when the bulldozers were sent to Jahangir Puri?
The state should not be seen as vengeful is a motherhood and apple pie statement. We all agree with it. Take a poll here. Everybody will agree with it. But what happened in terms of the specifics of this case, we'll have to find out. It's before the apex court. They're arguing there. Their people will come back there. I mean, they said only people who had a particular kind of name, their things are, और उसके बाद आ गए वो, you know, very much Hindu names that they cannot, unke bhi nikal diye. So let's not a channel discussion on such a prestigious channel I cannot be starting to introduce new facts here. I mean, that apex court will consider that. I can agree with your statement. State should not be, cannot be seen as being vengeful. And let me tell you strongly, this state is not vengeful. This state takes a beating because we try and accommodate and absorb all the thing which comes. So very often, because of that strong democratic and intent for, taking everybody along, it delays things sometimes. That's why people take advantage of they don't, leave illegal premises till I have to use the Public Premises Eviction Act.
Mr. Yes, many politicians thrown out of their homes, including some from the BJP.
No. Why should you have a different law for the BJP? I mean, I keep coming back to the same thing. One of the most Byzantine, and I thought it was a frivolous suggestion, a lawyer who's a politician for that party gets up and says, this is targeted at a particular community. Says who? Says who? Come and talk the facts with me. Well, I am having to face that kind of a situation. He appears in a case which I don't want to discuss that case. He said, no, it's a medical case. अरे मैंने कहा medical case या तो illegal occupation है 4.5 साल से. Medical case है, अगर मैं आपके घर में आके कब्जा कर लूं और आपके घर में रहूं और फिर कहूं मैं बीमार हूं अभी मेरे को निकालूं नहीं, कहां की आर्गुमेंट है?
Mr. Hardeep Puri, the theme for this economic conclave is also about the democratic dividend. We talk about the demographic dividend very often.
Democratic or demographic?
Demographic तो है, वो तो बात हो गई.
Democratic.
हम democratic.
वो कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि यहाँ पर ज़्यादा democracy होगी, मैं नहीं मानता उसको.
पर हमारी डेमोक्रेसी वो आजकल की लैंग्वेज में कहा जाए तो ये है ये मेरी डेमोक्रेसी और इस डेमोक्रेसी में बहुत सारा शोर, बहुत सारा कॉन्फ्रंटेशन, हिंदू मुस्लिम polarization that goes on all the time, and that's your doing is the charge. How do you respond?
My doing?
मतलब आपकी सरकार, आपकी गवर्नमेंट.
मैं आपको एक चीज बताता हूँ. मैं 40 साल 39 years to be precise, I was in another profession. And God has been very kind. I had the experience of living in other countries. I would not give up the comfort is a very wrong word, but the strength you get from living in an Indian democratic system as it is evolving. It was not like this. It's been evolving. I mean, you've got guys who misquote Supreme Court judgments, whom themselves lawyers. Today, you can file a public interest litigation, you can appear before a judge. I get frustrated. My line is, if something is illegal and somebody is removing an encroachment as part of his municipal designated authority, somebody can go and appear before a judge. I respect that. So it slows you down, but it still is the best system of democracy anywhere in the world. I've lived in the United States, I've lived in the UK, I've lived in Japan, I've lived in Germany, I've lived in Europe. Nowhere in the world do you empower your citizens the way we are doing. There are a few guys, liberals, who got their jobs in universities which were created by people who no longer have political power, and they get up periodically and start giving us sermons. Hey, wait a minute. Minorities, I'm a very proud member of a minority community. Kya bol rahe hain? See what the Honorable Prime Minister did yesterday? At the very place where the martyrdom decision of the Guru was taken, you're depicting day before yesterday and that function at Red Fort. I mean, 75 years mein kabhi bhi nahi hua. What he has done for my community, what he has done for other minority communities. Now, if you choose to falsify that narrative, no, this was targeted at a particular community. What nonsense is this? It was targeted at a particular community when something else happened in 1984. I don't want to tell that man. He was my teacher in the university, by the way. But somebody said I outgrew him. But that's a mean statement to make. But I think in the public discourse, political people, whether they're lawyers or politicians, they should be very careful and circumspect with their words.
When you were making that statement about your former professor, I just thought Punjabis are known to be extremely straight talking, and you've been a diplomat all your life.
So you mean I got complicated?
How did you sync both in your job and your quintessential nature as a Punjabi?
You know what? I'm a Punjabi. I mean, I will always be a Punjabi. But the issue is that Punjabis can also be restrained. They don't all have to get up and use language which has relationships built into it. I mean, where does it say that a Punjabi cannot also resort to what is called understated or, mild thing? वो इशारा ही बहुत होता है.
तो कभी कोई दिक्कत नहीं हुई?
दिक्कत तो, that's also a relative thing. No, once in Parliament, I was sitting I had a senior member who was sitting in front of me, one of my colleagues, very senior cabinet minister, he's got many portfolios. So some opposition member came and snatched a piece of paper from his hand. So my colleague hands were, trembling. So I asked him, took his name, I said, do you have another copy? Because he was reading out a statement. So he said, hai. But then I saw the guy approaching again. So I spoke to him. So somebody said I spoke in Punjabi.
With the relationships in Parliament?
No relationship. But I must tell you, in retrospect, after that session, of course, those guys got thrown out and so on. But he came and, he hugged me and, we exchanged numbers and greetings and so on.
So nothing that can't be solved with a jappi?
And puppy.
Well, coming back to the serious issue of oil, I just wanted to ask you, you said oil marketing companies, Fortune 500 companies that, take their decision on where to import from and how much to sell at. ये जो election होते हैं, उसके 4-5 महीने पहले ये छुट्टी ले लेते हैं?
अच्छा, मैं आपको एक बता रहा हूँ. You believe in the freedom of the press? 100% you believe, na?
We all believe.
I know. So
many people question whether it exists or not.
Do you run your your headlines after speaking to the Information and Broadcasting Minister? Certainly not, because many of the headlines that you run, Information and Broadcasting Minister would not be happy. If I were INB, I would not be happy. ऐसा है, OMCs are also responsible citizen entities. Okay, now. If you are making money, I mean, I'm just hazarding a guess. If you're making very much money on, let's say, the petrochemical business, and if you think that there is a little bit of under-recovery in something else, you might decide to postpone that recovery for a while, number one. But then you do go ahead. But let me assure you, and you know me well enough, do you think I get up every morning and having received calls from the OMCs who ask me, आज बढ़ाए नहीं बढ़ाए? ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
नहीं, आपने अभी थोड़ी देर पहला क्या इशारा?
नहीं, इशारा तो अब मैं आपके अलग की बात कर रहा. सुनो, होता क्या है, मेरा उनके साथ डिस्कशन दूसरे किस्म का होता है. I sometimes meeting, यार तुमने अभी बनाना था और कोई समय नहीं मिला था. Is that kind of discussion? And then they tell me, no, I can show you letters also. Listen, it's a very different world. But what we should be, I should not use the word rejoice. We should draw some satisfaction from the fact that this large country which is growing at you say 8.5% or so, 60 million people go to the petrol pump. There's enough petrol. We just sent how many thousand tons of diesel to a neighboring country just now? 50,000 additional. You are able to do it because you know how to manage your system. One of your colleagues asked me just now, aren't you worried about inflation? Of course I'm worried. But we keep monitoring it. We have to make sure that it doesn't go beyond a point. But it's a government which is in charge, which is able to monitor. But the criticism carping from the opposition, और मेरे घर के आसपास भी आजकल धरना करते हैं. मैंने उनको बोला, यार वो गलती कर रहे हो, तुम गलती कर रहे हो. उस दिन मैं एयरप्लेन से कहीं से आ रहा था छत्तीसगढ़ के, somebody accosted me also. उसको भी मैंने बोला, अरे मैंने कहा यार you got the thing wrong. तुम्हें छत्तीसगढ़ के सरकार के खिलाफ करना चाहिए, क्योंकि उन्होंने कमी नहीं किया वैट अपना. तो जब मैं कहता हूं तो एक दो दिन तो वो सोचते हैं, फिर कहते नहीं दाम बढ़ रहा. They forgotten the what I told them. I think you should run a chart
कि 2 दिन ऑपोजिशन गवर्नमेंट्स के सामने धरना और 2 दिन आपके
कांग्रेस
घर।
गवर्नमेंट्स हैं, नॉन बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट्स हैं, इन्होंने कितना वैट कम किया 4 या 5 नवंबर के बाद? वो 4 करो, दैट स्टोरी हो चुका था। वो कहते थे QED, क्या कहते थे कि आई हैव डन माय थिंग, डेमोन्स्ट्रेटेड, खत्म। हमें जो करना होगा हम करेंगे, हम नेगोशिएट भी करेंगे, हम ओपेक से भी कहेंगे आप करो, हम ब्राजीलियंस आए उनसे भी बोलेंगे अपनी रैंप अप करो, हम रशियन से भी बोलेंगे अच्छा डिस्काउंट दो, वो तो चलता रहेगा।
Mr. Puri, many people are speculating that with the Russia situation, if the Siberian pipelines are shut down or an eventuality of that kind would take place, oil prices could, could harden even further. Do you foresee an action of that kind? What is the range in which you think hardening of prices will happen, let's say in the next 3 months?
I am not in the speculating business on oil prices. All I can tell you is there is enough oil in the world. God forbid if something were to happen, I'm now going to direct this to those who are the major stakeholders in the global economy. देखिए, आपकी इकोनॉमी 20 ट्रिलियन की हो जैसे यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स की है, या 12 ट्रिलियन की हो चाइना की है, या जैसे हमारी है 3 ट्रिलियन की 5 ट्रिलियन बनने जा रही है, बाकी इकोनॉमीज हैं। अगर ऑयल $100 के ऊपर रहा तो ये आपकी और मेरी समस्या ही नहीं है, दिस इज अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर द ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी। एक मैंने आपको देश का उदाहरण दिया था जिस इज फेसिंग द स्टीपेस्ट डिक्लाइन इन लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड सिंस द सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर। वो एक शब्द है जो मेरे मुंह से निकलता अच्छा नहीं होता, इट स्टार्ट्स विद द बिग आर। अगर रिसेशन, अगर क्वार्टर ऑन क्वार्टर आपकी अगर रेट वो नीचे आ रही हो, विच मीन्स यू कुड बी रिगार्डेड टू बी इन रिसेशन। देखिए, ये सबको समझना पड़ेगा। वी आर द लैंड ऑफ महात्मा गांधी, आई एम टेलिंग यू। मैं कई बार अपने ऑयल प्रोड्यूसर्स को बैठता, मैंने कहा जस्ट सिट बैक एंड रिफ्लेक्ट। अगर हम अपनी 3% या 4% कंजम्पशन कम कर दें, यू वोंट नो व्हाट टू डू विद योर ऑयल। वी आर नॉट एट दैट स्टेज। अभी बढ़ती जा रही है प्रोडक्शन कंजम्पशन, बट इफ इट कम्स टू द फैक्ट वी आर इंक्रीजिंग आवर डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्शन, वी आर डूइंग more exploration and production, we are doing more biofuel blending. अगर हम 20%, ये 20% का टारगेट था 2030 का, we have brought it to 24, 25. So today in by the way, on 1st April of 2023, 20% blended fuel will start becoming available in some of our pumps. And we are now looking at looking at a energy issue also through a resolution of the agriculture issue. अच्छा, एक मैं और स्टैटिस्टिक दे दूं, then I will stop trying to throw statistics at you. हमारे 2 pilot projects हैं which are called 2G, second generation. One I think in Assam and the other in Panipat. One will come on stream in August, the other will come on stream in December. Navika ji, we will produce 90 million liters of ethanol produced from agricultural waste and bamboo. That's a real breakthrough.
Clearly, the challenge is very, very much there, and you seem to be at the moment looking very confident that India will meet these challenges. But Hardeep Puri ji,
that's a look I put on when I come on your show. I try to look confident.
You try to look confident.
Yeah, because otherwise you will try to depress me, and I try to avoid that.
No, I will not depress you, so long as you depress the prices of fuel.
I'm with you. Just tell the state governments to reduce the VAT, the Congress state governments.
Back to square one.
Yeah.
Well, always a pleasure speaking with you, Hardeep Puri. No holds barred, from the heart, Punjabi always.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.